Welcome to part 2 of my MonoGame game creation series. In this part we'll be creating a player class with a working movement system. Next up we're gonna make a new player class. To do that you must select the Poeg versus toilet in my case, or your project name, and go to add new item, and then you must select the class and give it a name. In this case it's gonna be the player class. Edit. Inside the player class you'll see they have added a few using statements and the namespace and an internal class. You can delete those using statements and then instead write these ones. Using Microsoft.xna.framework, and make sure you end it with a semicolon. Then you using Microsoft.xna.framework.graphics, and make sure to close it again with a semicolon. And then we'll go inside the internal class player and add a private game1 root, and make sure to end it with a semicolon again. Then we'll add a private vector2 position, and with semicolon again. Then a private texture 2D, and then a sprite image, and then a private float sprite width. And once you've added these things, you'll notice that the actual names are grayed out. That's because we haven't used them yet, and we'll be using them later on. And I'm gonna explain real quick what this all means. The private game1 root basically means that the game1 file, which is run by the program file, is able to extract information from the player file. So the game1 will be able to extract the player from the player file to use it in your game. That's why you have to use the root. And the vector2 position basically enables us to track its position and give position updates to the player. Sprite image, basically the image from the player, and sprite width is the pixel width from the player, which we'll be using to create a scale for the size of the player. After that we'll have to go inside the namespace from your file, then press enter and make a new public player, and then open brackets, then write game1 root, comma, vector2 position, and then go under it with brackets. And inside the body of this constructor you must write this dot root equals root, and this dot position equals position. Under those statements we must add a this.sprite width and give it a value. In this case we'll be using 128f, and this value doesn't actually have to be the same as the actual value from the pixels. In this case it's 300 by 300, but you could make it the same, but in this way it will size it. So if you change this one, the entire size of your image will change. After that you want to call a method, and in this case it will be the load content method, like that. And under that you must go to make a new field, public load content, and in the body of the load content method use the root field to make to load the texture 2D from your main character. We can do that by writing the following line: this dot sprite image is root dot content dot load texture 2D columns, and then main jar. Main jar. So we have some errors right now. Alright, moving these lines of code up will at least fix some of these errors if you put them in the right class. In this case that would be the player class. Alright, so I made a few mistakes. As you see, the void load content still has an error. That's because I did it wrong. There should be no errors left right now. In the player class we'll make a new property that will be called public float sprite height get body code inside of the get accessor will determine how the property returns its value. First, define a variable to calculate the scale, and we'll do that by using a float. Oh, excuse me. Float scale equals sprite width divided by the sprite image dot width. Then we must return the sprite image dot height times the scale, and this will give a scale for the actual image so that the length and the height will be correct. Next up, we're gonna make a new property called public rectangle public rectangle position rectangle. So we'll go public rectangle position rectangle, and we'll open it. These. And I made a minor mistake. I have to put this one below here. So, and in the body of the position rectangle property, we'll get a get accessor, get with the brackets, and then inside of there we'll have to put return new rectangle. Oh yes, new rectangle, brackets, another brackets, integer position dot x, comma integer position dot y, comma another integer, I know it's a lot, integer sprite width, comma another integer, you've guessed it already, the sprite height. Like that. And once you've put this here, there will be a position rectangle which we'll be able to use to make, for example, hitboxes and track the position and give position updates from our sprite. Next up, we're gonna have to make a update and draw in property. We'll do that like this. We'll make a public void update, and we'll open brackets, game time, like that. Then we'll make a public void draw. Alright, and in the line of the drop method, we'll put game time, comma sprite batch batch, and in the body of this method we'll put the following line: sprite batch dot draw, open sprite image, comma position rectangle, comma color dot white. Alright, and essentially what we've just done, we've made a rectangle which will be able to track the position from the X and Y axis and get a sprite width and sprite height. And we made a update game time method, which is still empty for now. We'll be able to add some things later to it. And we made a public void draw game time sprite with sprite batch, and in this body we'll be able to draw the sprite image, the position rectangle, and the color white, aka the main color of the actual image. Then we'll be using the actual player class. Now that we have made a player class, we'll have to remove some of the elements in the game1 file. So go to your game1 file and delete the private texture to the player image, because we've now made that in the player class. This will give some errors, but don't worry, we'll be able to delete this one as well, and we'll be able to delete this because we've already made it in the player class. You'll see the errors will be will go away. Alright, at the end of the game1 constructor, we'll have to put the following to actually call in the player class. Player is new player this new vector 0.0 0.0, and the this actually makes it so that we will be able to call in the root position and the sprite width, because it is also functioning with a this statement, and the vector is the position with the 0.0 coordinates. Alright, and in the update class we'll have to put the following line. We have to do player.update and then game time. This way the player class will actually update with it. And in the draw method we'll have to put in a new line in order for us to actually draw the player right now, because we've put it in the player class itself. And the following line will be player.draw game time. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Game time sprite batch. I made a mistake. Be sure to change the player sprite batch, the light blue one, to a underscore sprite batch, so that it is corresponding with this sprite batch. And make sure to make this p a small p so that it won't fuck up. Just say it like that. We'll have to make this one a small p as well, and this one a small p as well. Alright, editor Bossy here. I fixed the errors, but it took some time and I didn't record it while coding. Stupid! But I will show you the solution. Alright, as I said, I didn't record everything, so I'm not quite sure what changed, but here's a slow roll by so you guys can check it yourselves. As you guys can see, I added some new code here, and this is the code that makes the character move. I'll quickly explain it. The handle input reads out the current state of your keyboard. The bool is a false or true statement, which we use to see if a key is pressed. Then we gave the bool the name, such as up key pressed, and made it that the bool will be true when the W key is pressed, and so forth. Then we gave the bools orders to execute when they are true. For example, when the up key pressed bool is true, we update the Y position minus the movement speed, which we said earlier, and we do minus the movement speed while we are actually moving upwards, because the coordinates on the y-axis are inversed. So we did the same for the other directions, as you can see and copy right here. Then for the update method, we put update cost for the keyboard so that it will actually be able to pull data in real time. Alright, for the game1 file we didn't actually change that much, but just to be sure, really check everything, and I did change the preferred back buffer height and width. That is just the dimensions of my screen, so that it will be full screen. And just check everything and see if you're up to date with my code. And right now our errors are gone, and if you press play, the game should launch and we'll be able to move our character around with the WASD keys.